Okay, welcome back to the explanation of the rubric. So in the first video, I was going through connections, critical thinking, and analysis. We were looking at the exceptional column, so let's continue on with that. So just to finish the thought, from the last video where I left off, context and background information, what I mean by that is you're not assuming your reader has read the things that you've quoted or you are quoting if you are choosing to incorporate quotations. It's important that you're providing a little bit of context so that your reader's not left guessing like, what the heck does that quotation mean? Or what is this quotation referring to? I don't understand. So it's important to do that. And then, of course, properly cited according to MLA guidelines. So it's important that if you are incorporating quotations from outside sources, that you do have a works cited page that has the complete publication information for that source. So let's look at attention to writing quality and style. So an exceptional paper, let's look at that. The writer demonstrates a strong command of written English, varied sentence structure, sophisticated vocabulary. So what that means is that it's clear that the writer has really paid close attention to the writing quality. They demonstrate a strong command of written English. Their sentence style and structures are varied, so it's not just the same like ba-dum, 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 da-dum, da-dum. It has a musical effect to it, a musicality, so varied sentence structure, so thinking about different ways of composing sentences so they're not following the same grammatical structure. And then, of course, sophisticated vocabulary, using the appropriate words to really capture whatever it is, the idea you're trying to express. The writer employs figurative language in a creative and thought-provoking way. It does not rely on unoriginal cliches. So what figurative language is, you might also hear about, or I guess an example of figurative language is what we would call metaphor. So a metaphor is something that we use to make comparisons to help people understand things in a different way. So a type of metaphor is a simile using like or as, right? The sun was as hot as fire. That's a simile, not a very good one, but that's a simile. But metaphorical language using kind of creative examples, characterizing things in figurative ways to help advance the thinking or express your ideas more effectively, that's something that you'd want to strive for. Does not rely on unoriginal cliches. So a cliche is at least in writing, is a phrase that has been used so many times that it's lost its meaning. People no longer really understand what it means. One good example of this, and it's a little pet peeve of mine, but one good example of a cliche that is totally unoriginal is the phrase, think outside the box. And I'll tell you why. So the reason why that phrase is completely unoriginal and why I don't like it, or I'm just, it irks me, is because when we use that phrase, when we say think outside the box, we mean to be creative and original, right? But by using that overworn phrase that everybody uses all the time to express creative thinking, we are not being creative in our thinking, right? So it kind of cancels itself out. So think of another way to express that idea that's unique to you. Don't use those tired old cliches. Try to figure out a unique way of expressing an idea. So an exceptional paper, the writer is going to make every word count. And what I mean by that is every single word in the essay has a specific job. Nothing is wasted. There's not just throwaway sentences or, oh no, I gotta make it to the next page. Let me type in a bunch of words that, don't really contribute to the meaning of my paper. We want to make sure that every word in our essay counts. Every word has a job to do. So an exceptional paper is going to do that. In an exceptional paper, the writer's tone is going to be appropriate for the rhetorical situation. So what this means, rhetorical situation, that phrase, we use that phrase to talk about a few different things that a writer would consider when they sit down to write something. So one is the purpose. So what are you trying to accomplish with this piece of writing? the purpose of this essay is going to be different than the purpose of the next essay we'll write, for example, just as the purpose of this essay is different than the purpose of the email you wrote to your boss this morning, just as the purpose of the essay you wrote in history class is different from the purpose of the essay you wrote last year in history class, right? They're all different. We all have different purposes for every single thing that we sit down to write. We also have different audiences, right? So the audience is going to need to have they're going to have different expectations for whatever it is that you're working on. And then two, you as the writer, you have different things that you're considering, right? So all of that's what we call what goes into what we call the rhetorical situation. So the tone of your essay should be appropriate for that. Now keep in mind, you're writing an essay for a college English class. You're not writing some Facebook post or a note to your best friend or something to your grandma. It's something for a college course, and the course is a writing class, right? So your tone should be appropriate for that. I'm not saying it should be stuffy or boring or overly formal, but I'm saying it shouldn't be overly informal or conversational. So if you're writing just like you're talking, that's going to be an issue, right? The tone might not be appropriate. Just as the tone also should be invitational. You don't want to write an essay where you feel the reader feels like they're being yelled at. Now in this case, this essay is a little bit more personal. It's not like you're trying to convince your reader of something, but the tone should be appropriate. No major or distracting spelling, grammatical, or typographical errors. So this is important. This goes into one of the challenges laid out in the prompt to show ownership and pride over our work, taking care to eliminate major or distracting spelling, grammatical, and typographical errors. So remember, your piece of writing is a representation of you, whether you like it or not. So you want to make sure that the thing you're producing is going to be a good representation of the work you put into it, right? So it's important, so paying attention to that. So proofread, 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 and proofread some more. And then an exceptional paper will have exemplary adherence to the conventions of MLA, has a properly formatted works cited page if applicable. So if you're not quoting from outside sources, then you don't need a works cited page. But if you are, then a works cited page is necessary. But there are other things that go into MLA format. And I will post some resources for MLA just to make sure. But some of the basics are laid out in the prompt here. So format our essays according to MLA guidelines. 12-point Times New Roman font. That's the entire document, so you don't need to make your title bigger or a different color font, just Times New Roman 12-point font. Double spaced, okay, so the entire document is double spaced. There's no extra spaces between paragraphs. It's not single spaced, not 2.5 spacing, it's double spaced. And then 1-inch margins on all four sides. So that's the top, the bottom, the left, the right. All of them should be exactly 1 inch, not 1.5 inches, 1 inch. Okay. And then again, properly formatted works cited page if applicable. So those are the different characteristics of what an exceptional paper is going to look like. It's going to adhere to these things. It's going to have all of these characteristics. Just as a ready paper, a paper that's deemed ready, will have its own set of characteristics. And then the not ready yet will have some characteristics that could deem it not ready, right? Now, in some instances, and I'll address this in the feedback, a paper might be ready in most instances, but maybe there's something like, well, we'll just look over the writing, attention to writing quality and style. So maybe it has all of the characteristics, or most of the characteristics from the ready column, but there's a couple of things that might be not ready. In that case, I'm going to point that out to you, and that's something that I want you to then work on to revise. So you would then go back and revise and then resubmit. And then if you've adequately made those revisions, then your paper might be in the ready category. Or if you've really put in the work of revision, you could then turn whatever might have been a not ready paper into, not ready yet, into an exceptional paper, right? Oh, look, one of you on looking. Anonymous Chameleon. All right. And this, I didn't even give it a name because I hope that these are not going to be something you're looking at, right? So this is stuff where people didn't even try or bother even to submit. So Okay, if you have any questions about these things, please let me know. I understand that this can be a little overwhelming, and I get that, and maybe most of us or some of us might not be really familiar with using rubrics. So I'm happy to address questions. You can stop in, talk to me during our virtual office hours on Tuesday from 10 to 11, or if you'd like to talk to me through Messenger on Canvas, you can do so, or we could even set up a individual Zoom meeting if you'd like. So just let me know, y'all. But we're aiming for exceptional, right? Aiming for exceptional. Okay. Happy writing, everybody.